If you're here, you probably already know that Pokemon evolutions aren't always as simple as hitting level 16 and watching your starter glow. Some require bizarre items, others need friendship, some ask you to walk 1,000 steps in circles, and a few demand you flip your console upside down like you're trying to shake lunch out of it. From coins and candy apples to puzzle arches and weather conditions, the franchise has spent decades turning evolution into one of the most creative, frustrating, and surprisingly funny mechanics in gaming. Tonight, we're diving into 150 Pokemon evolution facts, perfect for background listening while you fall asleep, study, or hunt shinies. We'll shuffle between classics, oddball gimmicks, and modern twists, so it's never two of the same kind in a row. Whether you're a veteran who remembers grinding for a melodic back in Huin, or a newer fan still walking Pomo around Paldea, there's something here to make you go, wait, that's real? And before we start, statistically speaking, the weirdest evolution in this entire video might actually be you evolving into a subscriber. That's right. One click of the button, and suddenly you're stronger, cooler, and 20% more resistant to sleep powder. Try it. In K's evolution into Malamar is one of the quirkiest in the franchise. Instead of a stone, trade, or item, the requirement depends on how you hold your console. When NK levels up, you have to flip your handheld system upside down. This unusual mechanic began in Generation 6 with the 3DS's tilt sensor and carried into the Switch. It reflects Malamar's theme of reversing the world around it, both in its sinister lore and in battle. Many players discovered it by accident when their Inkay suddenly transformed mid-leveling session. Dunsparce, long considered a forgotten Pokémon, finally received an evolution in Scarlet and Violet. When taught Hyper Drill and leveled up, it evolves into Dunsparce. But here's the twist. Most players get the standard 2-segment version, while a rare 1% chance produces a 3-segment form. Statistically, it's about as rare as encountering a shiny Pokémon, making it a collector's prize. This evolution pokes fun at fan expectations. After decades of waiting, Dunsparce evolves into a longer Dunsparce. Mantyke's evolution into Mantine is tied to companionship. It can only evolve when there's a Remoraid in the player's party during level up. The requirement mirrors real-world symbiosis, where Remors attach themselves to larger fish like manta rays. Once Mantyke evolves, Remoraid doesn't need to stay in the party. The connection is purely for triggering evolution. This makes Mantyke one of the few Pokémon whose growth depends not on an item or condition, but on the presence of another specific species. It's a charming nod to ecology built into Pokemon's mechanics. Sliggoo evolves into Goodra through a weather-based requirement. Instead of just leveling, it must gain a level while it's raining in the overworld. That means battle weather effects, like rain dance, don't count. It has to be natural or scripted rainfall in the game's environment. This evolution ties directly to Goodra's lore as a dragon that thrives in wetlands. In Scarlet and Violet, the rule carries over to Hisuian Sliggoo as well, emphasizing its connection to damp, swampy ecosystems. It's a subtle mechanic, but one that makes Goodra feel rooted in nature. Carablast and Shelmet have one of the most lore-heavy trade evolutions. To evolve, they must be traded for each other. Carablast evolves into Escavalier, stealing Shelmet's armor in the process, while Shelmet evolves into Axelgore, shedding its heavy shell to become fast and sleek. This exchange reflects a parasitic relationship. Carablast takes the protective covering, leaving Shelmet transformed. It's a rare case where two unrelated Pokémon are permanently linked by evolution, and the only way to unlock both is through trading them with another player. Primeape evolves into Annihilape, one of the most surprising Gen 9 additions. The method involves repeatedly using the new Ghost-type move, Raj Fist. After the move has been used 20 times in battle, Primeape can evolve upon its next level up. This evolution connects to Primeape's lore of fighting until its spirit leaves its body, literally becoming a fighting/ghost-type Pokémon. The mechanic encourages players to actively use Rage Fist in battle rather than simply grinding levels, making Annihilape feel earned through combat experience. Phoebus is infamous for having one of the most difficult evolutions in early Pokémon games. Originally in Generation 3, it evolved into Melodic only when it reached High Beauty through Pokéblock feeding, tying directly to the contest system. In later generations, that mechanic was removed, and Phoebus now evolves when traded holding a prism scale. This streamlined the process, but many fans still remember the grueling task of finding Phoebus and maxing its beauty as one of the hardest Pokémon challenges. Applin is one of the strangest Pokémon because it's essentially just an apple with eyes until it evolves. Its evolution path depends entirely on items. Give it a tart apple to become Flapple, a sweet apple to become Appleton, or, starting in Generation 9 DLC, a syrupy apple to evolve into Diplin. Each form represents a different type of dessert, sour, sweet, or syrupy, turning Applin into one of the most thematically creative branching families. It's a Pokémon line that evolves as much through food culture as through battle. Girafarig finally received an evolution after decades, transforming into Farigiraf in Scarlet and Violet. To evolve, Girafarig simply needs to level up while knowing the move Twin Beam. This requirement ties directly into its new design, where the tail's head fuses into a protective helmet. The move symbolizes the duality of Girafarig's design: two beams, two minds, now united. It's one of the simpler modern evolutions, but it gave new life to a long-overlooked Pokémon from the Johto era. Friendship-based evolutions are some of the most common, but also the most heartfelt. For example, Golbat evolves into Crobat once it reaches high friendship with its trainer. Friendship can be raised by walking together, using items like berries, winning battles, or avoiding fainting too often. Modern games made this process easier with features like the Let's Go mechanic in Scarlet and Violet. These evolutions emphasize the bond between trainer and Pokémon, rewarding patience and care with powerful new forms. Runerigus has one of the strangest evolution methods in the series. To evolve from Galarian Yamask, it must take at least 49 damage in battle, survive, and then be brought to a specific stone archway in the Dusty Bowl of the wild area. Once those conditions are met, it evolves into Runerigus. This odd process ties into the theme of cursed relics and ancient ruins, making the evolution feel more like solving a hidden puzzle than a simple level up. Sylveon, the fairy-type evolution, requires both high friendship and knowledge of a fairy-type move to evolve from Eevee. This condition overrides the normal day and night rules that would otherwise create Espeon or Umbreon. Originally, in Pokemon X and Y, Sylveon also relied on Pokemon Amy affection, but later games streamlined it into friendship. This ensures that a player who wants Sylveon won't accidentally evolve their Eevee into one of the other forms, making Sylveon one of the most carefully designed friendship evolutions. Basculin's evolution into Basculegion is tied directly to its lore. To evolve, it must accumulate at least 294 recoil damage without fainting and then level up. The number 294 is a reference to Basculin's Pokédex ID. The idea connects to Basculegion's backstory, where it's said to be powered by the souls of Basculin who perished. The gameplay mechanic reflects this tragic story, turning battle pain and survival into the fuel for evolution. It's one of the darkest, but most clever mechanics in the series. Eevee is famous for being the Pokémon with the most branching evolutions. Over the generations, it's gained forms triggered by evolutionary stones, friendship levels, day or night, fairy-type moves, and even location-specific triggers like icy rocks or mossy rocks in older games. No matter the generation, Eevee evolves in unique ways that reflect the diversity of its potential forms. From Flareon and Vaporeon to newer additions like Sylveon, Eevee is essentially the mascot for evolution itself in Pokémon, representing choice and versatility. Gimmighoul evolves into Goldengo, but only after a massive collection quest. Players must gather 999 Gimmighoul coins, which drop from chest forms and roaming forms scattered throughout the map. Once the collection is complete, leveling Gimmighoul triggers the evolution automatically. It's one of the longest grinds for an evolution in the entire series, turning the process into a scavenger hunt. The payoff is Goldengo, a golden surfing string cheese-like Pokemon that embodies wealth and persistence. Its evolution is as much about patience as battling. Stantler evolves into Weirdeer through a unique requirement in Pokemon Legends, Arceus. It must use the move Psy-Shield Bash in Agile style 20 times before leveling up. This ties directly to Legends' unique battle mechanics, where Agile and Strong styles changed how moves were executed. By requiring mastery of Psy-Shield Bash specifically, the game ensured that players engaged with the new system. It's one of the clearest examples of evolution being tied to a region's mechanics, blending lore with gameplay innovation. Galarian Quillfish evolves into Overquill with another Legends, Arceus style requirement. It must use the move Barb Barrage in Strong style 20 times, then level up. This reflects its dangerous, poisonous design, emphasizing repeated mastery of a signature move. In later games like Scarlet and Violet, this was simplified. Overquill simply evolves when Quillfish levels up while knowing Barb Barrage. It's another example of Hisuian evolutions being tied to experimental mechanics, but streamlined later for consistency across mainline games. Dudensparce's 3-segment form is one of the rarest alternate evolutions in modern Pokemon. While most Dunsparce evolve into the common 2-segment version, there's a 1% chance of evolving into a 3-segment Dudensparce instead. Unlike Shinies, this rare form has no stat differences. It's purely a collector's prize. The design humorously extends Dunsparce's body, poking fun at years of fan demands for a dramatic evolution. The 3-segment form quickly became a badge of luck for dedicated shiny hunters and completionists alike. Tyrogue is a baby Pokemon with a unique split evolution at level 20. Its evolution depends entirely on its stats. If its attack is higher than its defense, it becomes Hitmonlee. If its defense is higher, it becomes Hitmonchan. And if attack and defense are equal, it evolves into Hitmontop. This mechanic encourages players to use vitamins, items, or careful EV training to shape Tyrogue's growth. It's one of the most stat-dependent evolution methods, rewarding planning and precision over simple leveling. Hydrapple, introduced in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet's DLC, evolves from Diplin through another move-based condition. Diplin must know the move Dragon Cheer and level up while it's in its moveset. Dragon Cheer is a thematic requirement, fitting Hydrapple's candy apple design with cheering energy. This evolution completes Applin's branching line, making it one of the rare Pokémon families with 3 distinct final forms. It shows how Game Freak continues to experiment with evolution triggers while tying them into food-inspired designs. Walking evolutions were introduced in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, making evolution more interactive than ever before. Palmo, Bramblin, and Reller all require players to take 1,000 steps in Let's Go mode before leveling up. This mechanic forces trainers to physically walk their Pokémon outside of battle, encouraging exploration of the open world. Once enough steps are completed, leveling the Pokémon will trigger the evolution. It's a playful and immersive way to tie evolution to the new Let's Go mechanic, giving players another reason to spend time roaming Paldea. Magneton and Nosepass used to evolve only when leveled in special magnetic zones, such as Mount, Coronet, or Chargestone Cave. These unique areas were tied to their lore, representing strong magnetic fields influencing evolution. However, in more recent generations, this condition was simplified to using a Thunderstone. The change removed reliance on location-specific mechanics, making it easier for players to evolve these Pokémon without backtracking. It also reflects Game Freak's ongoing effort to streamline older, region-specific mechanics into universal methods. Mantyke's evolution into Mantine requires a Remoraid in the player's party during level up. This mechanic is based on real-world symbiotic behavior between manta rays and remoras, small fish that attach themselves to larger hosts for protection and scraps. Once Mantyke evolves, Remoraid is no longer needed. It's just required for the trigger. It's a subtle but clever example of Pokémon evolution mechanics taking inspiration from nature, weaving ecological relationships into gameplay. Mantyke remains one of the few Pokémon that evolves with another species present. Inkay's unique upside-down evolution into Malamar continues to work on the Nintendo Switch, even though the mechanic originated on the 3DS. Back in Generation 6, players discovered that flipping their handheld upside down during level up triggered the transformation. The Switch kept this functionality, using its tilt sensors to detect orientation. It's one of the few evolutions in the series that directly relies on the physical hardware you're playing on, turning a simple level up into a fun and memorable gimmick. Some evolutions like Overquill and Wiredeer were first introduced in Pokémon Legends. Arceus, tying directly to the game's battle system. These Pokémon required the use of specific moves in Agile or Strong Style a certain number of times before leveling up. For example, Stantler had to use Psyshield Bash in Agile Style, while Qwilfish had to use Barb Barrage in Strong Style. These methods encouraged players to engage with Legend's unique battle mechanics, making evolution part of the experimental gameplay. Dunsparce is one of the only Pokemon evolutions with built-in rarity. When Dunsparce evolves, most become the standard 2-segment form, but there's about a 1% chance it evolves into the rare 3-segment version instead. This doesn't affect stats or abilities. It's purely a visual difference. The rarity makes it a collector's dream, similar to shiny hunting. It also humorously subverts fan expectations. After decades of asking for a true evolution, Dunsparce simply becomes a longer Dunsparce, sometimes even longer than usual. Gimmighoul's evolution into Goldengo is automatic once you've collected 999 coins and level it up. Unlike many other evolutions, you can't prevent it. There's no cancel option. This makes it unique, as most Pokemon allow players to stop an evolution by pressing a button or using an Everstone. Once the conditions are met, Gimmighoul is guaranteed to evolve. It emphasizes the grind-heavy nature of collecting the coins, turning the evolution into a definitive milestone rather than a choice. Eevee's many evolutions each follow specific rules, but the game has a priority system to prevent conflicts. For example, if your Eevee has high friendship and knows a fairy-type move, it will always evolve into Sylveon, even if other conditions for Espion or Umbreon are met. This ensures that players aiming for Sylveon won't accidentally get a different form. These priority rules are carefully coded to make the system consistent, showing how Game Freak balances complexity with accessibility for fans. Runerigus' evolution from Galarian Yamask is more like solving a puzzle than following a simple formula. Players need to make Yamask take 49 or more damage in battle, survive the hit, and then walk under a specific stone arch in the Dusty Bowl. It's not marked or explained in-game. So many players had to discover it through exploration or online guides. This puzzle-like evolution reflects the mysterious and cursed nature of Runerigus, making its method feel appropriately cryptic and spooky. Phoebus originally evolved into Melodic by raising its beauty stat through Pokeblocks in contests. This was notoriously difficult and time-consuming, especially since Phoebus itself was rare to encounter. Later generations removed this contest-based mechanic, replacing it with a trade while holding a prism scale. This made Melodic more accessible while still keeping some challenge. The change reflects Game Freak's willingness to modernize mechanics over time, preserving lore while streamlining gameplay. Despite this, Phoebus's reputation as one of the hardest evolutions lingers. Basculegions' evolution has an extra challenge hidden in its design. Basculin must take at least 294 recoil damage without fainting, then level up. However, if Basculin faints before evolving, the damage counter resets to 0. This makes the process more strategic than it first appears. Players need to manage battles carefully, ensuring Basculin takes damage but survives. The mechanic reflects Basculegions' lore, where only the Basculin that endure hardship and pain move on, powered by the spirits of those that didn't survive. Farigiraf's evolution is among the simplest modern cases, requiring Girafarig to learn the move Twin Beam and then level up. This straightforward design contrasts with older, puzzle-like evolutions, showing how newer generations streamline the process. Thematically, Twin Beam represents Girafarig's two-headed duality finally working in sync, with the tail head merging into a protective helmet. Farigiraf is a long-awaited evolution for a forgotten Johto Pokémon, and its no-nonsense method ensures players won't miss out after waiting over 20 years. Applin's evolution line was originally split by version exclusives. In Pokémon Sword, players could only get a tart apple to evolve Applin into Flapple, while in Shield, they could obtain a sweet apple to create Appleton. This encouraged trading between players to complete the evolutionary line. Later games allowed access to both apples, regardless of version, but the exclusivity was a clever nod to the franchise's trading roots. Applin's branching evolution also represents food variety, giving trainers sour and sweet dessert-inspired dragons. Primeape's evolution into Anahilape builds on mechanics introduced in Legends, Arceus. Like Hisuian Pokémon that required repeated use of certain moves, Primeape evolves only after Rage Fist is used 20 times, followed by a level up. This ensures trainers must actively engage with the move, not just grind experience. The method cleverly ties into its lore. Primeape fights with such rage that its spirit continues after death, becoming a ghost type. Anahilape feels earned through combat mastery, making it more than just a level up. Magneton's original evolution into Magnezone was one of the first location-based mechanics. In Generation 4, Magneton had to level up in strong magnetic zones, like Mount, Coronet, or Chargestone Cave. Nosepass shared this requirement, evolving into Probopass under the same conditions. This tied directly to their lore as magnetic Pokémon. In later games, these requirements were simplified to Thunderstone usage, since not every region included magnetic zones. Still, the original method remains memorable for introducing evolution tied to the geography of the Pokémon world. Here's a little-known fact you definitely won't find in the Pokédex. Statistically, the rarest evolution in all of Pokémon isn't Hydrapple and Anahilape, or even that 1% 3-segment Dudenspars. It's you evolving into a subscriber. Think about it. People have bred millions of Evas, walked thousands of Palmos, and collected 999 Gimmighoul coins. But the chance of someone making it this far into a video without hitting the subscribe button, that's rarer than a shiny odds reset. So if you want to complete your own evolution line, it only takes one click. Palmo's evolution into Palmot is one of the first to use the walking mechanic. Trainers need to walk 1,000 steps with Palmo in Let's Go mode and then level it up. The easiest way to achieve this is by running loops around cities like Mesagoza, where Pokémon won't faint to wild battles. After the steps are completed, simply using a rare candy or EXP candy triggers evolution instantly. This mechanic highlights Pokémon Scarlet and Violet's emphasis on open-world exploration and trainer Pokémon bonding. Sylveon's evolution method was carefully designed to avoid conflicts with Espeon and Umbreon. Normally, high friendship and time of day would decide whether Eevee became one of the psychic or dark evolutions. However, if Eevee knows a fairy-type move, Sylveon takes priority regardless of day or night. This ensures that players intentionally aiming for Sylveon won't accidentally evolve into another form. It also emphasizes Sylveon's role as the friendship plus fairy option, tying the bond between trainer and Pokémon to the fairy type's supportive theme. Dudensparce's 2-segment form is the standard result when evolving Dunsparce with Hyperdrill. However, there's a rare 1% chance it will instead evolve into the 3-segment form. Both versions share the same stats and abilities, with no competitive difference, making the rarity purely cosmetic. This intentional design choice pokes fun at longtime fan requests for a Dunsparce evolution by making it nearly identical with only slight length variation. It's a tongue-in-cheek reward for collectors and a nod to Pokemon's playful humor. Gimmighoul appears in 2 different forms, the stationary chest form and the wandering roaming form. Despite their differences, both can evolve into Goldengo once 999 coins are collected. The evolution process doesn't change depending on form. Coins collected from either version contribute to the total. This makes the roaming form particularly useful, as it provides small amounts of coins across many encounters. It's an evolution mechanic that emphasizes persistence and exploration, blending Pokemon's scavenger hunt elements into a major gameplay milestone. Mantyke's requirement of having Remoraid in the party to evolve into Mantine is one of the few evolution mechanics tied to another species. This reflects real-world ecology, where manta rays often coexist with remores attached to their bodies. Once Mantyke evolves, the Remoraid can be removed. It doesn't affect Mantine afterward. The method makes Mantyke unique among baby Pokemon, as most evolve by happiness, items, or leveling alone. Instead, its evolution is about a relationship, highlighting the bond between Pokemon species in nature. Hydrapple's addition in Scarlet and Violet's DLC gave Applin a 3rd branching final evolution, making it one of the rare families with 3 distinct outcomes. Trainers can now choose between Flapple, Appletun, and Hydrapple, each with its own design and battle role. This diversity emphasizes the food-themed creativity of the line, from tart apples to sweet pies to candy apples. Few other Pokemon families have so many fully realized evolutionary endpoints, making Applin both quirky and versatile. It's an example of how later generations expand old ideas in fun ways. Runerigus' unusual evolution method involves damage tracking, but the requirement isn't as strict as it seems. Galarian Yamask must take at least 49 damage in battle and survive, but it doesn't have to happen all at once. The counter carries over across battles, meaning you can slowly chip down the requirement. Once it's met, bringing Yamask under the stone arch in the Dusty Bowl triggers evolution. This makes it more forgiving than players initially thought, though it still feels like a hidden puzzle. Overquill's evolution originally debuted in Pokemon Legends, Arceus, where Hisuian Quillfish had to use the move Barb Barrage in Strong Style 20 times. In Scarlet and Violet, however, this method was simplified. Quillfish simply needs to know Barb Barrage and level up. This translation shows how mechanics from Legends, which relied on Agile and Strong styles, were adjusted for mainline games. Overquill's design ties into its dangerous Blowfish inspiration, and its evolution process highlights how Game Freak adapts mechanics across different generations. Eevee's modern evolutions have become more straightforward compared to earlier games. Leafeon and Glaceon once required leveling up near mossy rocks or icy rocks, which were specific to certain regions. This meant trainers sometimes couldn't evolve them at all if the rocks weren't available. To simplify things, later games replaced those location-based triggers with leaf and ice stones. This change reflects Pokemon's ongoing move toward accessibility, ensuring Eevee's evolutionary line remains consistent and achievable across every generation without region-specific quirks. Phoebus's evolution path into melodic highlights how Pokemon mechanics evolve over time. In Generation 3, Phoebus had to reach a high beauty stat through Pokeblock feeding, a system tied to contests. This made Melodic one of the hardest Pokemon to obtain, since Phoebus itself was extremely rare. Later generations removed the beauty stat requirement and replaced it with a trade while holding a prism scale. This change made the process far simpler, showing how Game Freak modernizes mechanics while still keeping the spirit of older ideas alive. Basculegion's recoil-based evolution method hides a quirky detail. The number 294. Basculin must take at least 294 damage from recoil and survive before leveling up to evolve. The number isn't random. It's actually a reference to Basculin's national dex number, number 294. This small Easter egg connects lore, mechanics, and in-game coding into one neat package. The recoil rule also emphasizes the spirit lore of Basculegion, where survival through self-inflicted hardship transforms it into something new, powered by the souls of fallen companions. Sylveon's evolution method has changed between generations. When it was first introduced in Pokemon X and Y, Eevee had to evolve with high affection through Pokemon Amy and knowledge of a fairy-type move. In later generations, however, Amy was replaced with more universal mechanics, so the requirement became high friendship instead. This adjustment streamlined the process while keeping the fairy move condition intact. The change reflects Pokemon's effort to standardize friendship-based evolutions while still preserving Sylveon's distinctiveness as the fairy representative of the evolutions. Inkai's upside-down mechanic remains one of the only evolution methods to directly interact with the player's hardware. To evolve into Malamar, the console must be held upside down during level up. This creative requirement originated on the 3DS, which had gyroscopic sensors and was carried forward to the Nintendo Switch. It's memorable for surprising players who stumbled upon it accidentally, turning a simple level up into a physical action. Inkai's evolution perfectly mirrors Malamar's unsettling lore of turning the world on its head. Dudensparce's rare 3-segment form may look special, but it has no stat or competitive difference from the standard 2-segment form. The rarity is entirely cosmetic, making it purely a collector's prize. This choice was deliberate, poking fun at years of fan requests for a dramatic Dunsparce evolution. Instead of a flashy dragon or serpent, the payoff is simply more Dunsparce. The 3-segment form's rarity, roughly 1%, makes it a humorous challenge for completionists and a badge of luck among trainers. Gimmighoul's evolution into Goldengo is one of the longest collection quests in the series. To evolve, trainers must gather 999 Gimmighoul coins, which drop in small amounts from chest and roaming forms scattered across the map. Only after reaching this total can Gimmighoul level up to evolve. The sheer grind required makes it feel like a major milestone, with Goldengo's design, a surfing golden figure, symbolizing the reward. This mechanic turns evolution into a long-term goal rather than a quick battle grind. Primeape's evolution into Annulape depends on using the move Rage Fist at least 20 times. Interestingly, the counter doesn't reset when Primeape is switched out of battle, so you can spread the uses across multiple fights. This makes the requirement more forgiving, allowing players to chip away at it rather than grind it out in one sitting. It also ties into lore, since the move's power increases as Primeape takes damage, representing its building fury. Eventually, all that rage pushes it beyond death itself, evolving into the ghost-type Annihilip. Stantler's evolution into Weirdeer in Pokémon Legends. Arceus highlights the game's unique agile and strong style mechanics. To evolve, Stantler must use Psyshield Bash in agile style 20 times before leveling up. This encouraged players to actively engage with the region-exclusive battle system rather than just grind levels. Thematically, it reflects Stantler's gradual mastery of psychic techniques before evolving into Weirdeer, a Pokémon revered in Hisui. This evolution process blended lore, mechanics, and regional flavor in a way no mainline game had before. Walking evolutions for Pomo, Bramblin, and Reller require 1,000 steps in Let's Go mode, but there's a catch. If you close the game before leveling them up, the step counter resets. That means players had to commit to evolving these Pokémon in one session or risk starting over. While frustrating at times, it emphasized the new walking mechanic in Scarlet and Violet. Trainers often found creative methods like circling cities or rubber banding their controllers to meet the step requirement without constant babysitting. Applin's Diplin branch debuted in Scarlet and Violet's DLC, making it one of the few Pokémon with an evolution added after release. While Flapple and Appleton already gave Applin branching paths, Diplin expanded the line further with a candy apple-inspired design. To evolve, trainers use a syrupy apple, an item introduced alongside the new content. This makes Applin one of the rare cases where a Pokémon family gained an extra evolutionary form years after its initial debut, keeping older Pokémon fresh with creative twists. Tyrogue's evolution out into Hitmontop is based on careful stat management, unlike most level-up methods. At level 20, if Tyrogue's attack and defense stats are exactly equal, it evolves into Hitmontop. Otherwise, attack greater than defense creates Hitmonlee, and defense greater than attack gives Hitmonchan. This encourages players to use vitamins, EV training, and stat balancing items to fine-tune their Tyrogue's growth. The method mirrors martial arts discipline, where balance and training determine one's style. It's one of the most player-controlled and precise evolution systems in the franchise. Runerigus' evolution is infamous for its obscurity. Galarian Yamask must take 49 or more damage, survive, and then be brought under a specific stone archway in the Dusty Bowl. The problem is that the arch isn't labeled or explained anywhere in-game, leaving many players confused. Because of this, Runerigus' method is often looked up rather than discovered naturally. Still, it fits the Pokémon's eerie, ruin-themed design, requiring players to interact with the wild area in ways that feel like solving a cryptic riddle. Mantike's evolution into Mantine is a fun nod to real-world marine biology. To evolve, Mantike needs a Remoraid in the party at level up, reflecting the natural relationship between manta rays and remoras. Those smaller fish attach themselves to larger hosts for protection and scraps, mimicking how Mantike grows alongside Remoraid. Once it evolves, Remoraid is no longer required, making the condition symbolic rather than functional. It's one of the few evolutions that directly mirrors an ecological relationship, blending science and gameplay in a charming way. Phoebus was once one of the most notoriously difficult Pokemon to catch. In Generation 3, it only appeared on 6 specific fishing tiles on Route 119, and those tiles changed daily. This made finding Phoebus incredibly frustrating, and evolving it into Melodic required even more effort with high beauty contests. Later generations simplified the process, but fans still remember the Gen 3 version as one of the hardest catches in Pokemon history. It gave Melodic a reputation as a status symbol for dedicated trainers. Gimmighoul's evolution into Goldengo requires exactly 999 coins, no more, no less. If you spend the coins before leveling up Gimmighoul, the counter resets, and you must collect them again. This creates one of the most grind-heavy evolutions ever, forcing players to scour the overworld for coins and chest forms. While it can feel tedious, the payoff is a flashy golden Pokemon that embodies wealth and persistence. The mechanic also ties into Goldengo's design as a surfing treasure mascot, rewarding players for patience and effort. Basculegion's evolution is the same for both male and female Basculin, despite the gender differences in its final form. Both must take at least 294 recoil damage without fainting before leveling up. This damage counter reflects Basculegion's lore, where the souls of fallen Basculin fuel its transformation. The gender only changes its appearance once it evolves, not the method itself. This makes the evolution a shared trial of endurance, showing how all Basculin, male or female, must endure suffering before reaching their final, ghostly form. Overquill is part of the group of Hisuian evolutions introduced in Pokemon Legends, Arceus, and later adapted to mainline mechanics. In Hisui, Quillfish evolved by using Barb Barrage in Strong Style 20 times before leveling up. In Paldea, however, the requirement was streamlined, simply knowing Barb Barrage and leveling suffices. This transition reflects how Game Freak adjusted regional mechanics, like agile strong styles, into more universal systems. Overquill stands as a perfect example of how regional Pokemon can be smoothly integrated into future games without losing their identity. Eevee's stone-based evolutions, like Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon, are some of the simplest, but their design history shows evolution's evolution. Later, evolutions like Leafeon and Glaceons once required moss or ice rocks, tying them to specific locations. Over time, these were replaced with leaf stones and ice stones, simplifying the process. Stones became the universal shorthand for straightforward evolutions, contrasting with Sylveon's friendship-based requirement, or Espeon, and Umbreon's day-night conditions. This shift towards stones reflects Pokemon's efforts to make evolution consistent across regions. Sylveon remains the only evolution that requires knowledge of a move from a specific type. Eevee must know a fairy-type move and have high friendship to evolve. This mechanic was added in Pokemon X and Y, the same generation that introduced the fairy type, making Sylveon a symbol of the new typing. Unlike Leafeon and Glaceon, whose methods were simplified later, Sylveon's condition remains unique, emphasizing its distinctiveness. This design choice reinforces Sylveon as a standout, setting it apart from its many evolutionary siblings. Inkei's upside-down evolution method is one of the quirkiest in the series. To evolve into Malamar, players must physically tilt their console upside down during a level up. Many fans accidentally discovered this mechanic when leveling Inkei while playing handheld, flipping the device at the wrong moment. The requirement ties cleverly into Malamar's lore, which revolves around hypnosis, inversion, and manipulation. It's one of the rare times Pokémon directly interacts with console hardware, making it a memorable and surprisingly immersive evolution experience. Hydrapple's evolution is unusual in requiring knowledge of a TM exclusive move. To evolve, Diplin must learn Dragon Cheer, a move it can't acquire naturally through leveling up. This makes Hydrapple one of the rare Pokémon that can only evolve with outside help, encouraging trainers to specifically seek out the TM. The requirement ties into its lore of leading cheers for other dragons, highlighting a team support role. It's a clever twist on the learn this move, then level formula, adding extra planning for players. Applin is one of the very few Pokémon with more than 2 possible final evolutions. Starting with Flapple and Appletun in Sword and Shield, the line later expanded to Diplin and Hydrapple in Scarlet and Violet's DLC. Each evolution requires a specific apple item or move condition, reflecting the theme of desserts and fruit varieties. This branching design makes Applin highly versatile compared to most species, which usually have just 1 or 2 outcomes. It's an example of Game Freak adding playful creativity to an otherwise tiny hidden Pokémon. Runerigus is often cited as one of the best examples of a puzzle evolution. Requiring Galarian Yamask to take damage and then pass under a specific archway in the Dusty Bowl, the method forces players to explore and interact with the wild area. The arch itself isn't marked or explained, making it a riddle players had to solve. While obscure, it reinforces Runerigus's eerie, ruin-themed lore. Puzzle evolutions like this add a sense of mystery and discovery, making the evolution feel like part of the world itself. Primeape's new evolution into Annihilip in Generation 9 revived interest in a forgotten Pokémon. Primeape, once considered a mid-tier Kanto fighter, gained a powerful ghost/fighting evolution after years of being left behind. Its methods, using Rage Fist repeatedly before leveling, gave it a unique identity tied to building anger. Annihilip's design, which depicts its spirit living on past death, perfectly fits this mechanic. This update breathed new life into Primeape, showing how old Pokémon can be revitalized with creative evolutions that connect lore, mechanics, and modern design. Dudensparce's 1% 3-segment form is one of the rarest alternate forms in the franchise. The odds are comparable to encountering certain shiny Pokémon, making it a collector's prize despite having no stat or battle advantage over the standard 2-segment version. This rarity is deliberately comedic, poking fun at years of fans demanding a Dunsparce evolution. Instead of a grand design, players got a longer snake with more segments, and the rarest version doesn't even matter competitively. It's Pokémon humor at its most tongue-in-cheek. Mantyke's evolution into Mantine remains unique among baby Pokémon because it depends on party composition. To evolve, Mantyke must level up with Remoraid in the trainer's party, referencing the symbiotic relationship between manta rays and remoras in nature. Once the evolution is complete, Remoraid can be removed without consequence. This unusual method ties directly into real-world ecology, and showcases how Pokemon evolution can reflect interspecies bonds, not just items or battle conditions. It's a rare mechanic that blends flavor, biology, and gameplay beautifully. Walking Evolutions added a new level of immersion in Scarlet and Violet by making players physically explore the map with their Pokemon. Palmo, Bramblin, and Reller require 1,000 steps in Let's Go mode before leveling up. This mechanic emphasizes bonding and exploration, tying evolution directly to time spent traveling together. Instead of simple EXP grinding, it pushes trainers to consider their environment and movement. It's a small but meaningful design choice that mirrors the core Pokemon theme: growth through shared journeys with your companions. Stantler's evolution into Wordier in Legends. Arceus isn't just about mechanics, it reflects the game's ride system. Wordier is one of the rideable Pokemon used to navigate Hisui's open landscapes, and its evolution process ties into that. Trainers had to use Agile-style Psyshield Bash repeatedly, integrating the battle system into lore. Once evolved, Wordier became both a team member and a crucial traversal partner, showing how regional forms and evolutions in Legends were designed to serve both narrative and gameplay functions simultaneously. Phoebus's original beauty-based evolution into Melodic was deeply tied to Generation 3's contest system. Trainers had to feed Phoebus Pokeblocks to raise its beauty stat, often requiring rare berries. This made Melodic one of the hardest Pokemon to obtain, especially since Phoebus itself was already rare. When contests were retired in later generations, this mechanic became obsolete. To keep Melodic accessible, Game Freak replaced it with a Prism Scale Trade evolution. The change shows how evolutions evolve alongside game systems, adapting to what features stay or disappear. Basculegion's evolution requirement hides a clever reference in its numbers. Basculin must take at least 294 points of recoil damage without fainting before leveling up. That number, 294, is actually Basculin's national Pokedex ID, turning a simple mechanic into an Easter egg. It adds a subtle layer of trivia for attentive players, while also reflecting the lore of Basculegion. Only Basculin that endure hardship evolve, their spirits strengthened by pain. It's one of the most creative examples of Pokemon tying flavor, mechanics, and hidden coding details together. Carablast and Shelmet's evolution method perfectly reflects their lore. To evolve into Escavalier and Axelgore, the two must be traded with each other. The reasoning comes from their armor-swapping concept. Carablast steals Shelmet's shell to become armored, while Shelmet loses its defenses and speeds up. This unusual cross-species trade mechanic is rare, forcing players to connect with others. It highlights Pokemon's roots as a trading-based franchise and shows how evolution can tell a story, not just raise stats. Lore and mechanics align beautifully here. Magneton's evolution into Magnezone in Generation 4 was one of the first location-based mechanics. Instead of an item, Magneton had to level up in areas with strong magnetic fields, such as Mount, Coronet, or Chargestone Cave. Nosepass also used this method, evolving into Probopass the same way. This tied their evolution to their magnetic lore, giving a sense of place and identity. Later, the method was simplified to Thunderstones, but the original remains memorable as an early example of tying evolution to geography. Sylveon's evolution is unique among evolutions because it specifically requires knowledge of a fairy-type move. This condition makes it stand out compared to Espeon or Umbreon, which depend on day-night cycles, or Leafeon and Glaceon, which once required field conditions. It also cemented Sylveon as the mascot of the fairy type, introduced in Generation 6. This mechanic forces players to intentionally teach Eevee the right move before leveling it up, ensuring Sylveon is a deliberate choice rather than an accidental result of high friendship. Eevee's branching evolution rules sometimes override each other, forcing trainers to plan carefully. For instance, Sylveon will override Espeon or Umbreon if Eevee has high friendship and knows a fairy-type move. In older games, location-based conditions could also interfere with stone-based outcomes. These overlapping triggers made Eevee evolutions more complex than they first appear, requiring players to understand the priority rules. While it could be confusing, it also reinforced Eevee's identity as the Pokémon of possibilities, where evolution is about choice, planning, and knowledge. Gimmighoul's evolution into Goldengo has lore baked into its design. Collecting 999 coins mirrors a long grind, and Goldengo's design, a golden surfer covered in coins, embodies that persistence. The surfing motif ties into its lore as a Pokémon that moves smoothly when powered by wealth. This makes its evolution not just a mechanical milestone, but also a symbolic one. Effort and patience are rewarded with a flashy, unique final form. Gimmighoul and Goldengo are prime examples of how modern Pokémon use collection mechanics as evolution triggers. Applin's three-branch evolution line is rare, especially since it expanded through DLC. Originally, Applin could become Flapple or Appleton depending on the apple item used. Later, the DLC introduced Diplin and Haydrapple, adding even more options. This post-release expansion makes Applin one of the only Pokémon families to grow with downloadable content, giving it unprecedented diversity. Each form represents a different dessert: sour, sweet, syrupy, and candy apple, turning Applin from a forgotten fruit into one of the most versatile and thematically creative evolutionary lines in the series. Tyrogue's equal stat rule for evolving into Hitmontop is one of the cleverest examples of player manipulation. At level 20, if Tyrogue's attack and defense are equal, it evolves into Hitmontop. Since stat growth varies, trainers often adjust them with items like carbos, iron, or vitamins before leveling up. This requirement teaches players how to influence EVS and stats in a hands-on way. It also reflects Hitmontop's balanced fighting style, where equilibrium between offense and defense determines mastery of its spinning martial arts techniques. Runerigus is still regarded as one of the most obscure evolutions in modern Pokémon. To evolve, Galarian Yamask must take at least 49 damage without fainting, and then pass under a specific stone arch in the Dusty Bowl. The condition isn't hinted at in-game, forcing many trainers to experiment or look up the solution online. It's a callback to older puzzle evolutions like Melodic or Phoebus, but with a modern twist. Runerigus's eerie lore as a cursed sarcophagus makes the puzzle fitting, adding mystery and atmosphere to its evolution. Inkai's upside-down evolution method continues to delight new players discovering it for the first time. By holding the console upside down while Inkay levels, it evolves into Malamar. This requirement originated with the 3DS's gyroscope and carried forward to the Nintendo Switch. Many players stumble upon it accidentally, only realizing afterward that the hardware itself was part of the process. It's one of the quirkiest mechanics in Pokémon, mirroring Malamar's hypnotic and reality bending powers. Few evolutions feel as playful, surprising, and immersive as Inkay's. Mantyke's evolution with Remoraid in the party is one of the most unique partner-based methods. At level up, if a Remoraid is present in the trainer's team, Mantyke evolves into Mantine. The moment Mantyke becomes Mantine, however, Remoraid is no longer required. This mechanic mirrors their symbiotic relationship in real marine biology, where manta rays often swim with remoras attached. It's a nod to ecological storytelling, blending science into the evolution mechanic. While unusual, it's one of the few cases where interspecies bonds directly shape a Pokemon's growth. Primeape's Rage Fist evolution mechanic doesn't reset between opponents. It counts each time the move is used, regardless of the battle length or foe defeated. This means trainers can stack up uses across multiple battles before leveling Primeape. It makes the evolution into Annihilip less grindy than it first sounds, while still requiring intentional effort. Thematically, Rage Fist grows stronger the more Primeape takes damage, representing mounting fury. This cumulative mechanic ties perfectly into Annihilip's design as a ghost type, fueled by rage that outlasts even death. Dudensparce's rare 3-segment form may not provide extra stats, but its scarcity makes it a status symbol. With only a 1% chance of appearing when Dunsparce evolves, it's about as rare as a shiny encounter. The fact that it has no battle advantage makes it purely a collector's trophy, rewarding luck rather than effort. Its rarity turns Dudensparce into a prestige form, giving it value in trades and among dedicated fans. It's Pokemon's playful reminder that sometimes rarity and bragging rights matter more than raw power. Basculegion's recoil-based evolution method has precise conditions. Basculin must take at least 294 points of recoil damage without fainting before leveling up. However, not all damage counts. Environmental effects like weather, sandstorm, hail, or status damage, poison, burn, don't contribute toward the recoil tally. Only damage directly inflicted by recoil from moves such as Double Edge or Wave Crash is valid. This detail forces trainers to carefully manage their moves and HP, emphasizing endurance. It's a challenging but thematically appropriate path, reflecting Basculegion's ghostly lore of survival through suffering. Overquill's evolution method in Hisui was one of several unique to Legends, Arceus. Hisuian Quillfish had to use Barb Barrage in strong style 20 times before leveling up. This system relied on Arceus's unique battle mechanics, where moves could be executed in agile or strong variations. Overquill's design, a dark, intimidating blowfish, fit perfectly with this distinctive evolution. When adapted to Scarlet and Violet, the method was simplified to Nose Barb Barrage. It's a great example of how region-specific mechanics influence evolution, then evolve themselves to fit new games. Hydrapple further cemented Applin as one of the most item-driven evolutionary lines in Pokémon. While Flapple and Appleton required a tart or sweet apple, Hydrapple introduced the need for Diplin to learn Dragon Cheer before leveling up. Since Dragon Cheer is a TM-only move, the evolution depends on item-based preparation. This makes Applin unique as a Pokémon whose entire line revolves around items and flavor, literally and figuratively. Hydrapple's candy apple inspiration rounds out the theme, turning a tiny fruit into one of the franchise's most diverse evolutionary families. Stantler was a forgotten Johto Pokemon for decades before finally receiving Wordyear as an evolution in Legend Seas Arceus. While Stantler was always present in games and the anime, it never stood out competitively or narratively. Wyrdeer changed that, giving Stantler a majestic final form with psychic abilities and a role as one of Hisui's noble mounts. Its evolution through agile style Psy-Shield Bash tied into the region's unique mechanics, making Stantler relevant again. After years of neglect, Wyrdeer gave it both gameplay importance and cultural significance in the Pokemon world. Gimmighoul's evolution into Goldengo is one of the most collection-heavy processes in Pokemon history. To evolve, players must gather 999 Gimmighoul coins, which come from both overworld roaming forms and treasure chest encounters. The overworld forms give small amounts, while chest forms reward larger stacks. This creates a long-term scavenger hunt across Paldea, blending exploration with persistence. Once the massive total is reached, a simple level up evolves Gimmighoul. The grind itself mirrors Goldengo's design, a flashy golden surfer powered by coins, making this evolution as symbolic as it is time-consuming. Eevee is easily one of the most complex Pokemon to evolve, with branching methods spanning stones, time of day, friendship, move knowledge, and even location. From the original trio requiring elemental stones to later additions like Espeon, Umbreon, and Sylveon, Eevee's evolutions highlight how mechanics evolve alongside the franchise. Some forms require environmental triggers like moss rocks or ice rocks, while others demand move knowledge. The diversity of methods makes Eevee unique and unpredictable. Its complexity reflects its theme of endless possibilities, making it a true wild card among Pokemon. Sylveon's evolution method avoids the confusion that could arise with Espeon and Umbreon. Normally, Eevee with high friendship evolves into Espeon during the day or Umbreon at night. However, if Eevee knows a fairy-type move, Sylveon takes priority regardless of time. This clever condition prevents unintentional evolutions and ensures trainers aiming for Sylveon won't accidentally get another form. It also reinforces Sylveon's identity as the fairy-type representative, standing apart from the others. It's a rare case where the game checks for a move first, simplifying the branching rules. Phoebus is legendary for having one of the most notoriously difficult spawn mechanics in the franchise. In Generation 3, it only appeared on 6 specific fishing tiles in Route 119, and these tiles changed daily. The odds were so low that finding one could take hours of random fishing. Combined with its contest-based beauty requirement for melodic, Phoebus became one of the most infamous grinds in Pokemon history. Later games eased the difficulty, but Phoebus's reputation as the ultimate hard-to-find fish lives on among veteran players. Palmo, Bramblin, and Reeler introduced a brand new type of evolution mechanic, walking. Trainers must send them out in Let's Go mode and walk 1,000 steps before leveling up. This mechanic ties Pokemon growth directly to time spent in the overworld, encouraging exploration rather than just battling. It also reinforces the theme of bonding, as these Pokemon evolve after literally traveling alongside their trainers. Though a bit tedious at times, the method was a fresh addition in Scarlet and Violet. reflecting the game's push toward open-world immersion. Runerigus' evolution method stands out as a clever wild area puzzle and Easter egg. Players had to bring a damaged Galarian Yamask beneath a specific stone arch in the Dusty Bowl to trigger its transformation. With no clear hints in the game, this forced players to experiment or collaborate online to uncover the secret. The puzzle-like approach turned evolution into an exploration event, rewarding curiosity. It was divisive for its obscurity, but it perfectly suited Runerigus' eerie, ruin-themed design, reinforcing the connection between lore, location, and gameplay. Dudenspars gave longtime fans what they had begged for, an evolution to Dunsparce. But in classic Pokemon humor, the upgrade turned out to be a near-identical serpent with either 2 or 3 body segments. The 3-segment form is a rare 1% outcome, making it more of a collector's prize than a power boost. Dudensparce's stats didn't change dramatically either, making it a tongue-in-cheek nod to fan requests. The result was both funny and frustrating, turning a meme-worthy Pokemon into one of the franchise's quirkiest evolutions. Primeape's evolution into Annihilape gave the fighting type a powerful new hybrid niche by combining it with ghost typing. This dual type is rare, and it opened up entirely new competitive possibilities. The method, using Rage Fist repeatedly before leveling, ties directly into Annihilape's lore, where its spirit continues fighting past death. Once an overlooked Kanto Pokemon, Primeape suddenly became relevant again in Scarlet and Violet. Annihilape's unique typing and menacing design gave Primeape the glow-up it had been waiting for since Generation 1, blending nostalgia with fresh gameplay. Hydrapple expanded Applin's line into one of the rare 3-stage branching families in Pokemon. Originally, Applin could only evolve into Flapple or Appleton, depending on which Apple item was used. Scarlet and Violet's DLC added Diplin and Hydrapple, pushing the family into unprecedented branching variety. Each outcome reflects a dessert theme: tart, sweet, syrupy, or candy-coated. This makes Applin not only one of the smallest and quirkiest Pokemon, but also one of the most versatile. The expanded line demonstrates how DLC can creatively breathe new life into existing Pokemon. Mantyke's evolution into Mantine is one of the quirkiest mechanics from Generation 4. Instead of leveling with a stone or item, it requires having Remoraid in the party. This nods to the ecological relationship between manta rays and remoras, where the smaller fish attach themselves for protection and food scraps. Once Mantyke evolves, Remoraid can be removed, showing the condition is symbolic rather than permanent. It's a rare case where Pokemon evolution draws directly from real biology, highlighting how evolution can reflect natural symbiosis in playful ways. Basculegion finally gave Basculin, a long-overlooked Pokemon, new competitive utility. For years, Basculin was seen as filler with little identity. With its evolution, in Legends, Arceus, it gained ghost typing, new abilities, and much higher stats. Its lore, being powered by the souls of its fallen companions, turned its once-forgotten presence into something both tragic and powerful. In battle, Basculegion filled useful roles as a hard-hitting attacker with unique typing. This shift proved how even forgotten species could become relevant again with creative evolutionary updates. Inkai's evolution remains one of the rare Pokemon mechanics that directly interact with console hardware. To evolve into Malamar, players must hold their console upside down during level up using gyroscopic sensors. Many players stumbled across this by accident, discovering Malamar's eerie transformation unexpectedly. It's one of the quirkiest mechanics in the series, tying directly into Malamar's hypnosis and inversion theme. Few evolutions feel as playful, blending technology with lore. It continues to delight players new and old, making it one of Pokemon's most memorable gimmicks. Overquill's design strongly reflects its inspiration from dangerous blowfish. With sharp, exaggerated spines and a menacing look, it takes the relatively unremarkable quillfish and transforms it into a regional powerhouse. The method in Legends, Arceus required repeated use of Barb Barrage, mirroring the idea of a poisonous creature striking repeatedly. Its intimidating appearance reflects its lore as a Pokémon feared even by other aquatic species. Overquill exemplifies how regional evolutions take older designs and emphasize their natural dangers, turning something once overlooked into a visually striking, battle-ready creature. Applin's evolution into Diplin in Scarlet and Violet's DLC ties directly into candy apple themes. Unlike Flapple and Appleton, which represented tart and sweet apples, Diplin brought the imagery of a caramel-coated treat to life. Its syrupy appearance and lore about sweetness connect to autumn festival food. The expansion of Applin's line shows how Game Freak uses food motifs creatively, turning even a tiny fruit Pokémon into a branching family with distinct cultural references. Diplin added both personality and variety, making Applin one of the most thematically rich evolutionary families in the franchise. Tyrogue's evolution into Hitmontop mirrors martial arts discipline through its stat-based requirement. At level 20, if attack and defense are equal, it evolves into Hitmontop. If attack is higher, it evolves into Hitmonlee, and if defense is higher, Hitmonchan. This mechanic encourages trainers to manage stats carefully, using vitamins, EV training, or items. The need for balance directly reflects Hitmontop's spinning fighting style, where stability and technique are as important as raw power. Tyrogue's evolution is one of the most symbolic examples of training reflecting martial arts philosophy. Runerigus turned Yamask's lore into a full evolution puzzle. Unlike the simpler Kanto form, Galarian Yamask needed to take damage and pass under a mysterious stone arch in the wild area to evolve. The condition wasn't explained in-game, leaving players puzzled until they discovered it online. This mysterious method tied perfectly to Runerigus' eerie design as a cursed sarcophagus-like figure representing ancient ruins and dark history. It was one of the few evolutions in modern Pokémon to feel like a riddle, blending gameplay exploration with unsettling lore. Sylveon gave fairy types their first evolution when it debuted in Generation 6. Its evolution required high friendship and knowledge of a fairy type move, a condition introduced alongside the new type itself. Sylveon's design, ribbons and pastel colors, emphasized its role as the flagship fairy, representing friendship, charm, and elegance. It became a fan favorite quickly, both for its strong battle utility and its warm design. By tying Sylveon's requirement to a fairy-type move, the game made sure trainers understood the new type while giving Eevee another exciting option. Gimmighoul's grind to evolve into Goldengo is one of the longest prep evolutions ever. Trainers must collect 999 Gimmighoul coins scattered across the map, often in tiny increments from roaming forms or chest encounters. This can take dozens of hours, making Goldengo one of the most earned evolutions in the series. The final form, a golden surfer made of coins, directly references the grind itself. The process reflects the reward, a shiny, stylish Pokémon born from persistence. For collectors, it turned Goldengo into a true milestone Pokémon. Stantler's evolution into Weirdeer showcased Legends, Arceus's agile/strong style battle mechanics. Trainers had to use Psyshield Bash in agile style 20 times before leveling up, making it one of the evolutions most tightly tied to the Hisui region. This requirement reflected Weirdeer's psychic power and role as a noble mount in Hisui's world. The process emphasized experimenting with the region's new systems. For a Pokémon long forgotten since Generation 2, this mechanic gave Stantler importance again, making Weirdeer feel earned through deliberate play and mastery. Phoebus's evolution into Melodic turned the otherwise dull fish into a contest beauty staple. In Generation 3, Melodic was one of the most coveted Pokémon, requiring Phoebus to max out its beauty stat using Pokeblocks. Combined with Phoebus's rarity, this made Melodic a true trophy. Its status as a symbol of beauty was reinforced in contests, where Melodic shined as an elegant competitor. Later games replaced this mechanic with the Prism Scale trade, but Melodic's reputation as one of the most desirable Pokémon endures, cemented by its origins as a contest icon. Dudensparce's design, with its comically long segmented body, is a playful nod to exaggerated snake and serpent legends. Many cultures feature myths of massive serpents, but instead of making Dunsparce's evolution a fearsome dragon, Game Freak leaned into humor by simply stretching it. Its two-segment and rare three-segment forms highlight this tongue-in-cheek approach, poking fun at fan requests for a dramatic evolution. By exaggerating Dunsparce's original design without truly changing it, Dudensparce became both a joke and a cult favorite, blending folklore inspiration with Pokémon's trademark sense of humor. Palmo and Reller's evolutions introduced the walking mechanic, rewarding trainers for active exploration. To evolve into Palmot and Rabska, these Pokémon must be walked in Let's Go mode for 1,000 steps before leveling up. This requirement pushes players to physically traverse the game's world rather than just battle or use items. It mirrors Pokémon's themes of growth through companionship and travel, with evolution triggered by shared movement. This mechanic added a new layer of immersion to Scarlet and Violet, making players feel more connected to their Pokémon through literal steps taken together. Mantyke's evolution requirement of having Remoraid in the party nods directly to real-world ecology. In the ocean, Remors often attach themselves to manta rays, feeding on scraps and gaining protection. Pokémon reflects this natural relationship by tying Mantyke's evolution to Remoraid, though once it evolves into Montine, Remoraid is no longer necessary. This mechanic is one of the most biologically inspired in the series, showing how Pokémon evolution often draws from nature. It makes Mantyke's growth more symbolic, reminding players that even Pokémon evolve within interconnected ecosystems, not just isolated battle mechanics. Primeape's evolution into Annihilate adds ghost typing, a direct nod to its lore of fighting until death. For years, Primeape was portrayed as a Pokémon that would fight endlessly out of pure rage, and Anilepe brings that to life, literally. The ghost typing represents its spirit living on after death, its anger so strong it transcended mortality. This transformation gave Primeape a new identity and a second chance at relevance, while also weaving storytelling directly into gameplay. Anilepe embodies the idea that lore-driven evolutions can breathe new life into forgotten Pokémon. Hydrapple represents Pokémon's expansion into candy-themed lore. Evolving from Diplin by knowing Dragon Cheer, Hydrapple completes Applin's dessert-based family, where Flapple and Appleton covered tart and sweet apples, and Diplin symbolized a syrupy treat. Hydrapple took inspiration from candy apples, often seen at fairs and festivals. Its design ties into both food culture and dragon fantasy, making it a playful yet intimidating addition. Hydrapple demonstrates how later generations and DLC can use creative themes like candy to evolve older concepts, keeping even small Pokemon like Applin fresh and full of variety. Overquill gave long-forgotten Quillfish long-awaited recognition. For decades, Quillfish was considered a forgotten Pokemon with little competitive use and no evolution. Legends. Arceus changed that by introducing Hisuian Quillfish and its evolution into Overquill. This dangerous, spiny blowfish gained a menacing design and stronger battle presence, finally giving Quillfish the spotlight it lacked. Its evolution method, tied to the strong style mechanic, reflected Hisui's unique systems, while its intimidating design made it memorable. Overquill proved that even overlooked Pokémon can be revitalized with thoughtful evolutions that emphasize their untapped potential. Inkai's Upside Down evolution trick stands out as unique, especially among Psychic-type Pokémon. To evolve into Malamar, trainers must level up Inkay while holding the console upside down, literally inverting the world. This quirk ties directly to Malamar's lore of hypnosis and manipulation, as if the game itself is under its spell. It's one of the only Pokémon evolutions to rely on hardware interaction, surprising players when first discovered. This creative twist not only cemented Inkay and Malamar as memorable designs, but also showed how Pokémon can use technology itself as part of storytelling. Basculegion's evolution method reflects its tragic spirit lore. Basculin must endure 294 points of recoil damage without fainting before leveling up. The mechanic symbolizes perseverance through suffering, with only those that survive evolving. In its lore, Basculegion is powered by the souls of fallen Basculin, carrying their spirits into battle. This makes its ghost typing both thematic and haunting. Instead of just being a gameplay challenge, the recoil condition directly mirrors its narrative. It's one of the rare cases where evolution mechanics perfectly embody the story of the Pokémon itself. Eevee's massive branch line makes it the ultimate mascot for Pokémon evolution. With 8 possible final forms and speculation about future ones, Eevee represents the idea of adaptability and potential. Its branching mechanics range from stones and day-night cycles to friendship and move requirements. This complexity not only makes Eevee versatile, but also highlights how evolution systems have changed over generations. By giving Eevee so many different paths, Pokémon turned it into a symbol of choice, creativity, and growth, fitting for a franchise built on the theme of evolution itself. Gimmighoul's final evolution, Goldengo, has a design that many fans noted resembles Nintendo's Mario coin surfing imagery. With its golden body, coin motif, and playful surfing stance, it's hard not to see a connection. The design references both wealth and fun, fitting for a Pokemon that requires an enormous coin grind to evolve. Whether intentional or not, this visual similarity makes Goldengo feel like a crossover Easter egg, bridging Pokemon's quirky humor with broader gaming culture. It transforms a tedious collection quest into a reward that feels both stylish and tongue-in-cheek. Runerigus' obscure method reinforced Sword and Shield's emphasis on exploring the wild area. Players had to damage Yamask, keep it alive, and then pass under an unmarked stone arch in the Dusty Bowl to evolve it. This requirement felt like a secret riddle, encouraging players to experiment with the environment. While many looked it up online, it still captured the spirit of discovery. Runerigus' eerie design, rooted in cursed ruins, perfectly matched the mysterious method, turning exploration into part of its story. It was one of the few evolutions that rewarded curiosity in an open-world setting. Applin's branching evolutions highlight modern Pokemon's trend toward item-heavy requirements. Originally, Applin evolved into Flapple with a tart apple or Appleton with a sweet apple, items tied to specific versions. Later, DLC added syrupy and TM-based requirements for Diplin and Hydrapple, making its entire line revolve around special items. This focus on consumables reflects how newer generations use held items and TMS to make evolution more varied. It also ties into Applin's theme, turning simple apples into playful food-inspired dragons. Applin's line is a small but creative showcase of Pokemon's evolving design philosophy. Tyrogue's evolutionary splits into Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, and Hitmontop mirror a martial arts rock-paper-scissors system. Offense, defense, and balance each correspond to one of the evolutions, depending on Tyrogue's stats. This approach forces players to fine-tune growth, deciding whether to specialize or seek equilibrium. It represents different combat philosophies: raw striking, endurance, or technique. The mechanic blends martial arts philosophy with game mechanics, showing how even stat-based requirements can tell a story. Tyrogue's branching path remains one of the most thematically clever evolution systems, teaching players about balance and training while reinforcing fighting culture. Phoebus's transformation into Melodic remains one of the most drastic glow-ups in Pokemon design. Phoebus is often considered one of the ugliest and weakest fish Pokemon, intentionally designed to contrast with its stunning evolution. In Generation 3, evolving it required maxing beauty through Pokeblocks, tying directly into contests. This difficulty made Melodic a true prize, symbolizing elegance and rarity. Later games streamlined the process with a prism scale, but the contrast between Phoebus and Melodic continues to stand as one of the best before and after designs. It's Pokemon's ultimate example of beauty emerging from unexpected beginnings. Sylveon's introduction emphasized the importance of Fairy type as a balancing force in the series. Before Fairy, Dragon Pokemon dominated competitive play with few natural counters. Sylveon became a poster child for Fairy types, representing charm, friendships, and elegance. Its ribbon-themed design and move-based evolution reinforced its status as the first Fairy evolution. By tying Sylveon to friendship and a Fairy-type move, Game Freak showcased how fairies would reshape battles. Sylveon became both a beloved fan favorite and a symbol of balance, anchoring the new type in competitive and casual gameplay alike. Primeape's new evolution into Anihilip is one of the clearest examples of old Pokémon revived. Once forgotten in competitive battles, Primeape gained new life in Generation 9 with a ghost typing and Rage Fist based evolution method. This change gave it both a lore-driven upgrade and mechanical utility, pushing it into relevance. Annihilip's design leans into Primeape's long-standing anger issues, reimagined as a spirit that never stopped fighting. It shows how modern Pokémon design often revisits overlooked species, revitalizing them with fresh concepts and powerful new roles. Annihilip turned Primeape from filler into a fan favorite again. Mantyke's evolution into Mantine is one of the clearest examples of Pokémon using partner lore as a condition. The requirement, having Remoraid in the party, mirrors the natural relationship between manta rays and remoras, where one relies on the other for scraps and protection. This partner-based mechanic has no competitive value once Mantine is formed, but it adds world-building depth. It reinforces the idea that Pokémon exist in ecosystems and evolve not only through items or battles, but through interactions with other species. Mantyke's quirky condition stands as one of the most ecological evolutions in the franchise. Inkay's upside-down evolution remains a fan-favorite gimmick. Its quirkiness, requiring players to tilt the console during level up, is so unexpected that many players discovered it by accident. The method directly ties to Malamar's lore of hypnosis and inversion, making the mechanic more than just a novelty. It's storytelling through gameplay. Even years later, it's remembered as one of the most unique evolutions, blending hardware interaction, surprise, and character themes. Inkay's trick demonstrates how Pokémon isn't afraid to experiment with fun, playful mechanics that leave a lasting impression on fans. Basculegion's recoil damage requirement emphasizes survival against adversity. Basculin must take at least 294 points of recoil damage without fainting before it can evolve, reflecting Basculegion's lore of enduring suffering. The ghost typing represents the spirits of Basculin that didn't survive, accompanying those that did. This mechanic makes its evolution more symbolic than most, tying gameplay directly to its haunting backstory. Instead of being just a numbers-based rule, it reinforces the themes of endurance and sacrifice. Basculegion's method is one of the most poetic examples of evolution mechanics aligned with lore. Dudenspars occupies a rare place as both a meme and a collector's gem. Fans spent years joking about Dunsparce finally getting an evolution, expecting a majestic dragon or serpent. Instead, they got a nearly identical, longer version with a rare 3-segment form. While humorous, the rarity of the 3-segment Dudenspars makes it as sought after as shinies, turning a joke into a legitimate collector's challenge. It shows Pokemon's sense of humor, fulfilling fan requests in the most tongue-in-cheek way possible, while still rewarding players who want a truly rare find. Hydrapple's candy apple theme fits perfectly within Pokemon's sweet-themed design tradition. Its dripping caramel look and syrup-based lore expand on Applin's existing food motif, giving it a festive, carnival-inspired aesthetic. This continues Pokemon's trend of turning everyday objects or foods into imaginative creatures. Hydrapple feels playful yet imposing, embodying both whimsy and dragon-like power. By tying evolution to Dragon Cheer, a unique TM, it forces trainers to engage with modern mechanics. Hydrapple balances humor, flavor, and battle presence, cementing Applin's line as one of the most thematically fun families in the franchise. Overquill was introduced as one of several Hisuian exclusive evolutions in Legends, Arceus, alongside species like Wyrdeer and Cleavor. These evolutions gave overlooked Pokémon from earlier generations new importance, enriching Hisui's lore while expanding regional diversity. Overquill, in particular, emphasized the dangerous blowfish theme of quillfish, exaggerating its spines and menace. Its evolution method tied into Hisui's strong style system, forcing players to engage with the region's battle mechanics. Overquill exemplifies how Legends created evolutions rooted in the environment, blending lore, gameplay, and style. It was long overdue recognition for a forgotten Gen 2 species. Pommo's evolution into Palmot is a payoff for players who invest time walking with their Pokémon. By requiring 1,000 steps in Let's Go mode, Scarlet and Violet turned exploration itself into an evolution condition. This mechanic emphasizes companionship, showing Pokémon evolving not just through combat, but shared journeys. For many, Palmot became their first walking evolution, making the bond with Pommo feel earned. It turned an otherwise small electric-type line into one with thematic depth, rewarding patience and persistence. Palmot's role as a reliable partner reinforced how evolution can reflect real-world connections between trainer and Pokémon. Stantler's evolution into Wyrdeer gave it new life in Hisui, where Wyrdeer also became a ride Pokémon. For years, Stantler had been a forgotten species with little competitive or narrative role. Legends. Arceus reimagined it as essential to exploration, making Wyrdeer a mount that could carry trainers across snowy landscapes. Its evolution required Psy Shield Bash in agile style, tying gameplay into the lore of Psychic Deer. Wyrdeer's role as both a partner and utility mount showcased how evolutions can be more than just stat boosts. They can be central to a region's entire culture and exploration system. Gimmighoul's grind-based evolution into Goldengo created one of Pokémon's most ambitious collection challenges. Trainers must gather 999 coins across Paldea, often hidden in small amounts from roaming forms or chests. This evolution also connected to Pokémon Go, where collecting coins across both games sped up progress. The reward, a shiny golden surfer made of coins, embodied the grind perfectly. Wealth and patience turned into power. By making the process long-term, Gimmighoul reinforced Pokémon's themes of persistence and discovery. It tied multiple games together, becoming both a collector's quest and a satisfying evolution for determined players. Eevee's many forms balance its mascot appeal with mechanical variety. Each evolution introduces different battle roles, from Sylveon's special tanking to Jolteon's speed or Umbreon's bulk. The branching evolution methods, stones, friendship, day-night, moves, or locations make it one of the most versatile Pokémon ever. Eevee's adaptability reflects Pokémon's core idea of growth and choice, while also keeping its design cute and marketable. This balance between commercial mascot and deep gameplay symbol makes Eevee a cornerstone of the franchise. With every generation, fans speculate about new forms, showing its enduring role as Pokémon's evolution icon. Phoebus's evolution into Melodic once made it a contest trophy in Generation 3. Phoebus, one of the ugliest Pokémon, evolved by maxing out its beauty contest stat, creating one of the most difficult evolutions in the series. This mechanic reflected Pokémon contests in Hoenn, where Melodic shined as a symbol of elegance. Its rarity and difficulty made Melodic highly coveted, both for contests and battles. Later generations replaced the beauty requirement with a prism scale trade, but Melodic's reputation as one of the most glamorous Pokémon remains rooted in its contest origins. Runerigus' introduction in Sword and Shield rewarded exploration and curiosity in the wild area. Its evolution method was intentionally cryptic. Galarian Yamask had to take damage, survive, and then pass beneath a specific arch in the Dusty Bowl. This puzzle-like condition captured the spirit of mystery, tying into Runerigus' Cursed Ruins design. While many players sought online help, those who discovered it organically were rewarded with one of the most atmospheric evolutions in modern Pokémon. Runerigus exemplifies how environment-based mechanics can make evolution feel like uncovering hidden lore, not just raising levels. Inkai's evolution mechanic continues to be praised as one of Pokémon's most creative design choices. By holding the console upside down during level up, players directly interact with hardware to trigger its change into Malamar. This playful twist ties into Malamar's hypnotic and inversion-based theme, blending narrative with technology. It's memorable because it's surprising. Many trainers discovered it accidentally, shocked when Inkay evolved mid-battle. This quirky design choice stands out in a series full of stones, trades, and levels, proving Pokémon isn't afraid to experiment with mechanics that break the usual rules in clever, thematic ways. Sylveon completes the evolution rainbow with Fairy typing, introduced in Generation 6. Its evolution required high friendship and knowledge of a Fairy-type move, ensuring players learned about the new type. Sylveon quickly became a flagship for Fairy, balancing the dominance of Dragon types in competitive play. Its pastel ribbons and affectionate design made it an instant fan favorite, appealing to casual players while also thriving in battles. By introducing Fairy through such a beloved line, Pokémon anchored the new type in both narrative and gameplay. Sylveon remains one of the most iconic modern evolutions in the series. Mantike still feels like a hidden evolution to many fans because its condition, having Remoraid in the party, is so unusual and unintuitive. Unlike most Pokémon that evolve through items, levels, or friendship, Mantike's requirement is rooted in ecological lore, mirroring manta rays with attached remoras in real life. Because Remoraid isn't tied to Mantine once it evolves, many players overlook the connection entirely. This makes Mantike one of those accidental discovery evolutions, often surprising trainers who suddenly see it change. Its quirky design choice ensures it remains one of the most unique and easily missed mechanics in Pokémon. Primeape's evolution into Anilape introduced a powerful new ghost/fighting combination. This typing gave it both offensive punch and thematic depth, reflecting the lore of Primeape's anger continuing even after death. Rage Fist as its evolution trigger tied gameplay directly to its story, using the move repeatedly symbolized its fury, building to an unstoppable point. The result is a Pokémon that feels both mechanically unique and narratively satisfying. Anihilape revived a long-overlooked species, giving Primeape a much-needed modern role, while also adding one of the coolest new ghost hybrids to the Pokémon roster. Dudensparce's reveal was one of the most intentional subversions of fan expectations. For years, players begged for Dunsparce to finally evolve into a majestic dragon or serpent. Instead, Pokemon gave them Dudensparce, nearly identical, just stretched out with added body segments. This joke evolution cleverly poked fun at the hype, while also making the rare 3-segment form a serious collector's challenge. In this way, Dudensparce became both a meme and a legitimate hunt, balancing humor with rarity. It highlights Game Freak's playful streak, delivering what fans asked for in the most tongue-in-cheek way possible. Basculegion represents one of the most emotional intersections of lore, mechanics, and tragedy. Basculin evolves by enduring 294 points of recoil damage without fainting, symbolizing perseverance through suffering. In its Pokédex lore, Basculegion carries the spirits of fallen Basculin, explaining its ghost typing. This evolution method directly mirrors the story. Those that survive hardship evolve, those that don't remain behind. It's one of the rare cases where gameplay mechanics so perfectly align with lore. Basculegion turned an overlooked species into something powerful and memorable, elevating both its narrative depth and competitive presence in a single design choice. Hydrapple brought Diplin's candy apple line full circle, expanding Applin's quirky family. Where Flapple and Appleton already represented tart and sweet apples, Diplin added syrup as a new theme. Hydrapple completed the set with a caramel-coated candy apple design, resembling a fairground treat. Its evolution, tied to learning Dragon Cheer, made it more engaging, connecting item-based lore with move requirements. The result is a dragon that's both whimsical and threatening, embodying Pokemon's ability to take simple food concepts and make them battle-ready. Hydrapple helped turn Applin's small, silly concept into a surprisingly robust and beloved evolution line. Overquill filled a design gap that had existed since Generation 2, finally giving Quillfish an evolution. For decades, Quillfish was infamous as one of the forgotten Pokémon, with little competitive or narrative impact. Legends. Arceus changed that, giving Quillfish a Hisuian form that could evolve into the intimidating Overquill. Its spiny, inflated design emphasized danger and menace, while its new role gave it actual presence in battles. Overquill proved that even long-neglected Pokémon could receive overdue attention, showing how modern generations revisit older ideas and breathe new life into them with clever evolutions. Pomo and Bramblin both demonstrate how walking mechanics innovated Pokémon evolutions. By requiring 1,000 steps in Let's Go mode before leveling up, these species tied their growth directly to physical exploration. This mechanic pushed players to engage with the game world in a new way, making evolution about companionship and movement, not just battles. It also added immersion, encouraging trainers to actively walk alongside their Pokémon. The result is that their final evolutions, Pawmot and Bramblegast, feel like rewards for time spent journeying together, reinforcing Pokemon's theme of adventure and trainer bonds. Stantler gained unexpected importance in Legends, Arceus with its evolution into Weirdeer. For years, Stantler had been considered a filler Pokemon, overshadowed by flashier designs. Legends elevated it into a central part of Hisui's culture, making Weirdeer both a strong evolution and a key ride Pokemon for exploration. Its move-based requirement tied neatly into Hisui's agile, strong-style mechanics, while its dignified design gave it fresh, narrative weight. By transforming a forgotten Gen 2 Pokemon into a major figure of the region, Deer showed how evolutions can revitalize older species in meaningful ways. Gimagool ties exploration, grinding, and lore into one evolution system. Trainers must collect 999 coins scattered across Paldea to evolve it into Goldengo. The sheer scale of this collection effort reflects Gimagool's treasure hoarding theme, while its final design embodies surfing through wealth. This mechanic also bridges games, connecting Pokemon Go's coin hunts with Scarlet and Violet. By blending grind-based progression with thematic consistency, Gimagool turned evolution into a long-term project. It's one of the clearest examples of Pokemon using mechanics to tell a story, rewarding persistence with a flashy golden reward. Eevee's branching evolution tree remains the most iconic in the entire franchise. With 8 final forms spanning nearly every major typing role, Eevee has become a symbol of growth and adaptability. Its various methods, stones, friendship, day-night, moves, and locations, have reflected Pokemon's evolving mechanics across generations. Eevee's versatility makes it a competitive asset, a marketing mascot, and a fan favorite all at once. Each form feels distinct while staying tied to its core identity, cementing Eevee as the ultimate example of Pokemon evolution's creativity and variety. Few other species embody the theme of choice as strongly as Eevee, and that's the end of our journey through 150 of the strangest, funniest, and most creative Pokemon evolution facts. From holding your console upside down to walking 1,000 steps in circles, it's clear that evolution in Pokemon is so much more than just leveling up. It's a blend of lore, imagination, and sometimes pure nonsense that makes the franchise so endlessly charming. If you made it all the way here, you've basically survived your own evolution, patient, curious, and maybe just a little sleepy. And yet, there's still one evolution we didn't talk about, the one that happens when you hit that subscribe button. Think of it like an evolution stone, except instead of turning into a dragon, you unlock more videos like this one. So if you haven't already, give it a click. It costs nothing. It helps me out. And who knows, it might just be the rarest evolution of them all. Thanks for spending your time with me tonight. Sleep well, dream of shinies, and I'll see you in the next adventure.